Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the On Point Politics channel. And today I'm going to be doing an election prediction between Donald Trump and Joe Biden for the 2024 presidential election. And guys, election year is here. And so now we're going to be seeing a lot more developments, for the upcoming season and things like that. So if you really want to keep updated with the content that I'm going to be pushing out on this channel, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend so we can get the channel out on the algorithm. But before we get into this, I'm going to be kind of doing like election weekly update. So like every single week, I'm gonna be posting a new electoral map prediction instead of doing it every month like Let's Talk Elections or Ready Go Politics or the other guys. I'm gonna be doing it every single week so you can kind of see what I'm really following here. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the 2020 election results as well as the polling in order to really see, gauge like where we're really at. And so without further ado, I'm going to be characterizing the safe states for the map. So if you look at Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, is clearly going to perform well in states like Idaho, Montana, the Great Plains, Utah. He's still going to win it by over, 15, 10 points. By the way, I am going to be using like a +10 margin as the safe margin just because it is a little bit easier to characterize, because when you get into that 10.15 range, they get a little bit harder to characterize. And to be honest, once it's over a 10-point win, it's basically a safe anyways. Like it's a lock to go to that party. And so that's basically what I'm going to be using. So clearly here you could see, like, the Appalachians, he performs pretty well. He's going to be doing, he's not going to win Kansas by under 10 points like some people on Twitter claim. He'll do fairly well. I also think that he's going to add Ohio and Iowa into this safe column. I do think he's going to win Ohio and Iowa by over 10 percentage points. You could look at them as maybe like 11, 12-point victories, to be honest with you. If you look at the states back over here, you could see that Donald Trump won by about 8 percentage points. And there's a lot of room to grow here. You could see he's still probably going to chop into these margins here in Columbus and some of these blue areas, and as well as making these lighter red counties, a little bit more Republican, and probably improve his margins in the Northeast over here of Ohio. And so I do think he's going to be able to make that improvement, as well. Now, I do think that for the safe states for Joe Biden, I think he's going to win California by over 10 points. He'll do fine in Washington, Oregon. These states have trended basically left for the past, complete many, many years. I mean, even Oregon compared to 2000 is much more democratic than what it was before. I honestly think that Colorado is going to end up being a 10-point victory or more. Colorado has basically trended left off a cliff. So even if Donald Trump wins the popular vote, I still think Colorado would be over a 10-point win. We're going to be going over the Northeast here. We could see that all of these are going to be over 10-point wins, as well as the state of Illinois. However, I do think Illinois will actually be much closer. I do think it'll be under 15 points. I could probably see a 12, 13-point victory for Biden, depending on how the night goes. As well as Hawaii. I think Hawaii is going to get much closer. I think it's going to get within 20 instead of it being like a 30, 35-point win for the Democrats. Let me actually put this really quick. And so here we are, with Joe Biden at 162 to Donald Trump's 136. Now, actually, I forgot to add South Carolina and Alaska into the safe column because Alaska is going to vote Republican by over 10 points, as well as South Carolina. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to be under 15, but I just can't see them being under 10. Now, we're going to be getting into the likely Democratic states for Joe Biden. I think he'll do fine in New Mexico. I think he'll do fine in Virginia. These are the states that I think he'll do fine in. And actually, we're adding a new likely state into the mix. We're going to be adding New York. Now, New York, it is very interesting. A lot of people would say, bro, why would you put it in the likely column? It's still going to be over a 10-point win. If you really look at this, right? If we go over here, first of all, if you go to New York and you actually look, let me see how you could do the shift from 2016. You can see a lot of these counties, besides the New York City area, these areas actually got pretty much more Republican compared to before. Joe Biden had a massive underperformance in the city area already in 2020 when he won the state by a large amount. And that was because he improved a lot in a lot of these, rural parts of New York, upstate New York, mid New York, alongside of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. He was able to really perform here, especially in a place like Albany and things like that. So I feel like these trends are going to reverse in 2024. I think he's going to improve his margin in all of these counties. And I'm pretty sure these trends in the cities are going to keep going. And you can see that even in the latest polling data in New York, a lot of polls actually have it under 10 points for Joe Biden against Donald Trump. And so I do think as of right now, I am actually going to characterize it as like a 7, 8 point win. I do think it's going to be a shocker, and a lot of people saying like, "Oh, he can't win New York," and things like that. It's still a far stretch right now, but if the polling gets closer and he keeps up the momentum with his polling with young voters and Hispanic voters as well as black voters, I do think he might actually be able to make a surprise flip for the night. But I think it is still a pretty far reach to say that he would even flip New York. Virginia, you could see here in 2020 had a pretty easy, victory for Joe Biden. Joe Biden did a pretty good job here. You can clearly see that some of the rural counties did go to Trump, but I do think that a lot of these blue counties here, really messed Trump up in this election. And so I do think that Trump is going to make some ground. I think he's going to make a lot of these red counties here a little bit more red. He'll probably expand his base in rural Virginia. He'll probably be able to win Virginia Beach this time, but I don't see him getting it under 5. I think it'll probably be like a 6 or 7 point win, as well as New Mexico. I think it's going to be like a 7 or 8 point win. He'll do a little bit better with Hispanics, but you got to understand the Hispanics in New Mexico are not the same Hispanics like in Florida or like on the border of Texas. So that's something to really keep in mind. I actually also forgot to add Maine's second, um, Maine's at large as well as Maine's first district as being like a safe and likely state. I think he'll do just fine in Maine, to be honest. And now we're going to be getting into the likely Republican states. We're going to be adding Texas and Florida into those columns. You can clearly see here in the state of Texas that Trump had a massive overperformance on the border, and a lot of these swings come from his border immigration policy and people agreeing with his policies in this area, and they basically electorally rewarded him for this. Now they are small counties. For example, you can see here Kennedy County here is literally like 200 votes, but when it's 40 points more Republican, that means that these basically ended up like being Democratic counties. A lot of these were Democrat counties back in 2016 and they all flipped. And a lot of this actually gave Donald Trump his 5 point win. And I think he's going to improve here. And you could even see in an area like Harris County and a lot of the bigger city areas, he is actually making a there is actually a corner being turned here. They're not trending as far to the left as a lot of, people claim. And so I think he's going to be able to make some gains here in some of these areas, in my opinion. I think he's going to be able to expand his margins, in the southern border area. So I think that is going to help him, win it by possibly by 8 or 9 points. I think he's going to recreate his 2016 victory there. And if you look at the state of Florida, I mean, the state of Florida is it's pretty self-explanatory. You could see here that basically Miami-Dade shifted 22 points to the right, and I think he's going to continue that swing in the southern east area of Florida, and I think he'll improve in places like Pinellas County and Jacksonville, Duval County. He'll improve in Leon County. So I think that he is going to improve. He's going to make a lot of these red counties a little bit more redder. So in my opinion, he's basically got Florida in the bag. He's probably going to win it by like about 8 or 9 points, in my opinion. So he's got Florida in the likely category. Now for the lean, I almost forgot. I mean, second district would be a likely category. It's probably going to be a 9 or 8 point victory. So now you have the swing states of the election. For the lean Democratic states, I think Joe Biden would win Minnesota by about, 3 or 4 points. I think the state has basically gone super duper left because of those, BLM riots and just a different class of Democratic voters, not the same ancestral Dems like in Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania. So I do think he is going to win it by about 4 points. I could see this getting closer. The third party vote share is like really, really, really high. But and other than that, I don't really see it going anywhere. I also think the state of New Hampshire would probably be like a 2 point victory. I think it is going to be much closer, probably even lower than that. And it kind of depends. If Donald Trump keeps up his momentum in the polls, he probably can win New Hampshire, but we're going to have to wait and see for that one. Now, Nebraska's second district is going to be a lean Democratic state. He won this by about 7 points in 2020. So I really don't see how he's going to be able to flip that back. Donald Trump would be able to flip that back, even if he does win the popular vote. And so now we got, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. You can see that North Carolina is going to be a lean margin. I do think he will improve. I think something about like how Ted Budd won it, however he won it by, he's probably going to end up recreating that. I believe it was by 3.9 percentage points. And so he's probably going to win it by about 3 points, maybe a little bit more than that. That'd be probably my guess there. And so now the first state I'm going to characterize here is the state of Wisconsin. I do think Wisconsin will be a point plus victory for Donald Trump. I think that there is so much room to grow here. There's a lot of counties here that are still not deep, deep red, and I think he can overperform in these by quite a substantial amount. And I do think he's probably going to win it by about like 2 points. I think it'll be an easy victory for Trump. It's going to be called early. I don't really think it's going to be a problem for him. It'll probably be called on election night. And so that is what I see Wisconsin being as. Even in the WoW counties, I think he'll probably hold strong in the WoW counties here. The only one that is trending like super left off a cliff is Ozaki, but in my opinion, I think he's going to be able to stall the trends. And even if for some reason it does go Democrat for some reason, I still think he's going to outperform the rest of the state. So I don't really think it's going to matter too much when it comes down to everything at the end of the day. Another state that I do think would be a lean state is Nevada. I think Nevada, it did vote for Biden by 2.4 percentage points, but it is trending to the right. In the 2022 midterms, the governorship was won there by about like a point and a half, and the Senate election was basically ruined for Republicans by a whole snowstorm. If a snowstorm didn't happen, they basically would have won that Senate seat. It was very, very close. I think it was within like 18,000 votes. It was a very, very close election there, and that incumbent was very, very vulnerable. I think he's going to be able to win Washoe. I think he's going to be able to win Clark County. Maybe not Clark County, but I do think he'll get it really, really close, and I think he'll still improve in a lot of these red counties here as well. I think he'll improve his margins there. Now, for the lean Democratic states here, I do think he's gonna win Michigan by probably like a point. I do think that Michigan has gone really, really left. I think the midterm results were pretty disastrous for Republicans there. I think the state party is just not it. And so I do think that they are going to drag Trump down just a little bit. And I do think Biden would probably win it by like a point, even with the whole like Palestinian, like Muslim anti-vote for Biden now, I still think that it would go lean Democratic. Now, Georgia, I think is going to end up going to Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump will win the state of Georgia. I think he's going to be able to kind of improve in the exurbs around Atlanta. I think he'll get these a little bit closer and be able to improve in some of these closer blue counties as well as kind of maximize his turnout in the red areas. And so that's kind of how I see Georgia going. Now, these last two states, Arizona and Pennsylvania, I do think Arizona is going to end up going to Biden as of right now, still. I think the state is very, very left. And so I do believe that it is going to be going in that direction. I think the midterm results were just really bad for Republicans. And I think Donald Trump is going to struggle here a little bit. If the third party vote share is very high, then he probably will win Arizona. But in my opinion, I just can't see him really winning it right now. I think maybe if Republicans really do get on the ball game about the voter ballot harvesting and all that stuff, I think they will be able to win Arizona, but that's just how I see it. Now, Pennsylvania was decided by a 1.2 victory, and I think a lot of that was fueled by Biden's, Scranton Joe kind of thing. And I feel like he's not going to really have that appeal anymore. And so I do think with, the southeast of Pennsylvania probably narrowing up, Trump doing decent with the black vote. I think he's probably going to get close to about 20% of the black vote. So I do think that Donald Trump would win Pennsylvania. And this is my current 2024 prediction as of January 6th. A lot can change, in a week, but this is my prediction as of right now. I'm going to be doing a weekly series where I basically update the electoral map every single week for the presidency, and I'm going to be covering news and different content, as we go throughout the months and the weeks of election year. And so this is it. Donald Trump at 286 to Joe Biden 252. If you guys have a suggestion for a video I should do in the comments, let me know. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend so we can get the channel out on the algorithm. Other than that, I hope you guys have a very good day.